and I'm starting my PhD. In fact, my induction is next week, Monday. So my presentation is a story of my life. So it says from grass, that's nothing, to grace, something. So it's my life, my process, my journey, and my hope.
Was I pressed the record?
Okay. So life starts with my mom. We have our journey. So it starts with our loss. When she lost the husband, I lost the dad. And when she lost the son, I lost the brother. My dad died of pulmonary embolism, and my brother died 3 months later of retinoblastoma, cancer of the eye. And coming from a Nigerian culture, when a husband dies, women are put through some rituals to exonerate themselves from the death of their husband. My mom had to pass through that. She was taken to a river in the middle of the night to dip herself 7 times, just to say, I had nothing to do with the death of my husband. And after that loss, she was left with 1 child. That's me. And unfortunately, I had health difficulties too. So this is my family. My parents on their wedding day, my brother, and my cute little self. So the question is, does a child grieve? Johnson observed his 6-year-old patient and discovered that the child could only communicate the pain of losing his mother by displaying hyperactivity. In my case, I cried. I was 10 months old when my dad died, 13 when my brother died. And even in that, I developed concept of object permanence, which is part of Piaget's theory of cognitive development. I experienced the loss even as a child, but people might say, how does a child experience loss? These were familiar faces. A dad that doted on me, a brother that played with me, and my mom at that point wasn't around because she was in mourning. So I was passed from one uncle's house to the other. The only way I could express the pain and the discomfort and being uncomfortable was to cry. I have assimilated the absence of my family, accommodating the relocation from one uncle's house to the other, and I lacked the verbal ability to communicate my thoughts, my pain, and my confusion. Then that comes to my childhood. I developed a tumor in my small intestine, a weak valve in the heart, seizures, painful joints. Unfortunately, I was in Nigeria, so some of these things, I didn't have proper treatment, no proper diagnosis, and life went on. But I had my miracles, though. Adulthood, lupus diagnosis, immigration, total dependence on my mom, even though I was an adult. Living with lupus, accepting an adaptation. So what's lupus? It's an autoimmune disease. So instead of my immune system to fight disease, it's fighting my organs. So it cannot differentiate between the good cells and the bad cells. So it can affect any part of me, starting with my kidneys, and studies have found that it affects women of childbearing age between 15 and 44 years old. Then, ethnicity-wise, women from ethnic minority backgrounds have more severe manifestations of lupus than those from the white background. So impact of my lupus in my life. My kidney first, then Raynaud's on my fingers that just started like chilblains, my joints, my skin. I could wake up okay, and in the middle of the day I might not be able to walk, or I could just wake up and not be able to leave the bed. I'm obviously always exhausted, entire body pain, photosensitivity, My son will always say to me, Mom, why are you always tired? I don't have the answer to that. So, fatigue, fever, anemia, headache, hair loss, butterfly rash, edema, swollen joints, Raynaud's, mouth ulcers, sensitivity to light. There was a point in my life where I could barely use my fingers for anything because they were blistering. So if I wanted to have a shower, I had to wear gloves. If I wanted to use the toilet, I had to wear gloves. It would burst, it would infect, it would treat it. It was painful. I can remember changing my son's diaper with my gloves, and mistakenly it pulled and the elastic slammed my finger. The poor baby didn't know why I was crying, but I was shattered. So life stops. The loneliest moment in someone's life is when they are watching their whole world fall apart, and all they can do is just stare blankly. You're helpless. So my doctor's prescription when I was diagnosed with lupus, he called a meeting in Mayday Hospital, called my mom and my uncle. They sat around. I know when I told my mom that my diagnosis was lupus, I had no clue what lupus was. I came back, I said, oh, they said there's something wrong with my kidney. And it was 3 months after I had my son. And she laid hands on me and she prayed and said, nothing is wrong with your kidneys in Jesus' name. And I said, amen. So, this wasn't going to go that way. So my doctor's prescription, a meeting with my uncle and my mom. To my mom and uncle, he says, EJ would need lots of support because she'll be very dependent on you. And he said to me, EJ, avoid stress, especially the stress of finance and romance. That was very good advice. So, impact of lupus. Lifelong treatment regimen. So from the very start, I started chemotherapy. From chemotherapy, I became a lab rat, that everything they tried to use to help manage my lupus, they weren't working. And when I get into hospital, stretched in, and the nurses were poking and probing my nerves, sometimes they wouldn't get any veins out of me. I've had veins from my leg, and I look at it, I'm in pain. What a life. Employment was a no-no, social life was zero, and at adulthood and the mom, I still had my mom caring for me. And when I mean caring, I mean having given me a bath on the bed, feeding me. She wakes up, she had to give up work for me. So wakes up, takes my son to school, gets my smoothie, puts it on the side of the bed, takes my son to school, comes back and helps me. All that affected my life. And then side effects of medication. I was on steroids. It affected my knees. So I had to have surgery on both knees and both ankles at the same time. I had no stair lift. My mom had to take me up and down the stairs. Grass. My life was shattered. I was an adult. I stayed away from any social media because I didn't want people to ask me, oh, what are you doing now? Oh, what's your career? And when I say lupus, someone will say, is it contagious? Why are you not working? So there was different things no one knew, and I had to hide. Life revolved hospitals, home, and church. I had a degree in psychology, but I had limited capacity to work. Then, if that wasn't enough, immigration crisis. When I came into England in 2009, I came in a student visa to study applied psychology. So with that, you have 2 years work permit after your studies. So after my studies, I had 2 years work permit. But I had to be working. I couldn't work because of lupus. So my mom had to file for me. That application was rejected. We had to appeal it. I had to go to court to prove why I needed to stay in England. The judge asked my mom, so if we send your daughter back to Nigeria, will you go back with her? And my mom said, you're practically sending her back to go and die. 2 weeks after that, we got my visa approved. That was not the end of my immigration crisis. 2 years after I needed to renew my visa, I did a visa waiver which was rejected, and I sent my application back. My application got stuck with the Windrush crisis, and a few months later I got a brown envelope coming that I've overstayed in England and I needed to be reporting at the deportation center every 2 weeks. That was killing. I could remember sitting on the toilet and saying to my mom, I think it's best for me to go back to Nigeria, sit comfortably and just die, because the anxiety, depression was just killing me. I just can't handle it with all my hospital worries. The role of faith. Faith played a very important role in my life. I was born a Christian, a Catholic. When I was growing up as a child, my mom's faith was built on my health issues when I was a child. But as an adult, my faith was tested with my lupus and my immigration journey. I began to bear my illness as my cross, accepted and moving on, wherever life may take me. And with that, I could see beyond what I could not do to what I could do. I began to appreciate the little things I could do, even as little as not holding a stick to walk, just to put my hands in my pocket and walk normally, or hold my son's hand while walking him back from school. So there comes that prayer, the serenity prayer, that says, Lord, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. So that was what I needed, the wisdom to know my capability and my disability. So, as I've stated, the role of faith. I started dwelling on what I could do and ignore the things I couldn't do. And that also means in my health. I had to keep my stick available, my Zimmer frame available, just in case of the days I can't walk. I had to keep one in the car, one in the house, get my stair lift, ditch my pride, saying I'm a youth, I should be full of energy. I don't care anymore. I just need to be alive. I need to survive. I need to strive. I need to find my path. You might say it's sad, but lupus made me find my path. I began to volunteer in church from the youth group and fortunately got a work job as a learning support at Hopewood Hall College. And I began to build my strength and believed there was more to me than lupus. I accepted my disability and my capacity. I adapted to my disability. Acceptance became the path for progression and thriving. Deciding to go back to uni to study counseling and positive psychology, I struggled with work at college, but I knew I had to slow down and take my own pace. Growing up, the first thing my mom does when I'm going into any school is to go to the teacher and tell the teacher, just to inform you, she will not be coming to school all the time because she will always be unwell. Growing up now, I still have to do that. I have to make my application and still tell my lecturers, unfortunately, I might not be in class so time because of my health. My dissertation, I stumbled on autoethnography. Each stage made me reflect, and it gave me a reason to be grateful. My life became a story, not for the pain, but to give people hope. So, that comes to my name that Jerome called the whole of it. It's called Ijabalum. It means a fruitful journey. So, my dissertation for MSc was an autoethnographic account of my life's journey, laced with grief and pain from chronic illness, but redefined by positive psychology. It was redefined by hope, resilience, post-traumatic growth. So, my life in itself, although has been painful, like every other person, but I believe it's fruitful. So, autoethnography on its own analyzes the author's lived experience. It becomes data. So my story became my data. I became the researcher and the participant. It allowed me to articulate everything that has happened in my life, even the one that I wasn't aware of, to bring them together and make sense of it all. Faith infused hope, resilience, post-traumatic growth, and flourishing. Grace. I made a distinction in my MSc. Part of my dissertation has been approved for publication in a new book called Autoethnography in Psychology and Mental Health, New Voices, edited by Professor Jerome Carson and Professor Alec Grant. I have applied for PhD, a dream that I never thought would be possible, and I'm standing here today doing this presentation, and I'm coping with lupus. My mom wanted to come for this, but I told her there's students and doctors, it's not for the whole crowd. But she really wanted to see me stand here and talk about our life. So what next? My PhD research. It's on the lived experience of lupus sufferers and the validation of APA-CHIME, the role of acceptance and adaptation in flourishing, or the role of denial and rejection in languishing. So what's my APA-CHIME? A, acceptance. P, pain. That's the physical pain and the psychological pain. The other A is adaptation. C, connectedness. H, hope and optimism. I, identity. M, meaning. And E, empowerment. So, what am I aiming? I want to develop a psychological intervention to develop mental health well-being for patients because it's lonely. People don't understand it. Because I'm working, I might not look disabled, I look okay, but there are things within me that are telling me I'm not okay. And to educate people on chronic illness, because they're not physically detectable. It says, when I was diagnosed with lupus, I don't know what it was or anyone who had it. I know more about the disease now, and I'm available for support. Could someone you know have lupus? So is that bringing awareness about chronic illness? The importance of understanding chronic illness to enable development of psychological and mental health provisions for chronic ill people. Because it's not just the physiological help giving us medications, and we need, for people that are just being diagnosed with lupus, it's a confused world. You don't know what to expect. No one knows what it is. Coming from Africa, someone called me on the phone and said, come back, there's someone that will treat you and cure you. Or they'll say it's voodoo. Or they say, because there are unexplainable things happening to you. So, chronic illness, what you know. Asking about the illness is not offensive. We like to talk about it. Our bodies are unreliable, not us. Illness builds empathy. You can talk to us about anything. Some days our symptoms will be better or worse than other days. We still want to be invited even if we can't come. We might still be grieving our lives before illness. So, I saw this picture online when I was doing this, and it says, lupus is a journey I never planned or asked for, but I chose to love life, hate the disease, and fight. However, I felt differently about this. So I said, lupus is a journey I never planned or asked for, but I chose to love life, accept and adapt to the disease, and thrive amidst my struggles. Thank you.
Okay, so I'd just like to ask Ms. Durrani to come and present EJ with her trophy for her presentation. That was an amazing presentation, and that story was her autoethnographic MSc dissertation, for which she received a distinction, and it's being published in a book chapter. So, Mr. Durrani, if I could ask you... and then the certificate, Sharon.
Why would you do that?
Thank you very much.
So, EJ has to leave us now. She's got a hospital appointment. So, all the best, and thank you for a wonderful presentation, EJ.
Thank you.
Right, so, EJ,